Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Snap Judgments. This is Randy, and I have brought TeeJ Wengert on of 32 Beat Writers, and we are going to do a full first round mock draft. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that TJ and I go back a ways. About 3 years ago, we did a full first round mock draft, and I thought it went well then. I'm technologically challenged, so it's taken me a while to get back up and running on online live and such. But really happy that TJ was able to make some time. Thanks so much. You want to just take a moment to introduce yourself while I get things set up on the back end?
Yeah. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, it was funny. I was thinking back and I was like, God, Randy and I have been talking about drafts for how long again? And I was like, God, yeah, I think it's been like 3 straight drafts now, which is interesting. It's just kind of funny how long we've been able to chop it up. But yeah, excited to be on the show. I work with 32 beat writers. I think we just do curation and kind of the aggregator lifestyle most appropriately, without all the clickbaits and without all the BS that kind of comes with, other accounts like ML football and JPA and stuff like that. So 32 beat writers will give you all the news you need to know, and also my NFL draft rankings, which I'm going to be doing running backs next. I've been working on this series called Fixing the Franchise, which is kind of like an offseason simulator, free agency, NFL draft stuff, plus mock drafts galore over on the 32 beat writers YouTube channel and Twitter. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about 32. Appreciate you having me on, Randy.
Yeah, no, a lot of good stuff on TJ's channel. Make sure to check it out. I know I don't miss a video, and I haven't missed a video for years now, so
I appreciate it.
Definitely strongly recommended. So yeah, today we're gonna get right into the. Oh wait, I gotta move this picture. I gotta get this up. There we go. We're gonna get right into the mock draft. We're gonna be using the Draft Professor's mock draft simulator. That's what I've been using all season. I know we've talked a little bit about it beforehand, but I really like this simulator. The way the boards are individualized for each team based upon the picks that are made by the fans of that team. So it makes it really original and it kind of, just different.
Yeah, it's kind of like a living document in a lot of ways, where like each time you go in, if you've waited a week or two since you've last done one for that team or whoever, it's like, oh wow, the board's kind of shifted a little bit, and it kind of just reshapes your thinking a little bit of how you look at it. And okay, well, it seems like a lot of Steelers fans are doing this, or a lot of Raiders fans are doing this, so it creates a different experience each time you use it. I really appreciate it, and it's a great tool put together by Jim. It's amazing. I'm kind of with you where I have technical things I'm good at, and then there's things where it's like, he did that, how in the world did he do that? So I got to pick Jim's brain about how he put this together.
Yeah, no, he did a great job. I really like it for the single team, like fanatic mode stuff. And,
Totally.
that really, it's like gives you a way to present different scenarios for each individual team in a completely unique way that just no other site that I've seen over the years of me following the NFL draft has even attempted to do, let alone successfully done.
100%. And it's not even really, especially in those type of scenarios where like it's you want the picks before that to make sense, but really you're just trying to, what am I going to do here at 21 if X, Y, and Z is not available? All right, well, X here, we'll do that. All right, X is not there, Y is there. It just allows you to run down the possibilities and what your checklist would be. And if we do this round 1, how do we want to stack round 2? So I did one with Jim about the Steelers, and it was a really cool exercise, and it was kind of all in the moment. Rapid fire, 3 rounds, and then I think we did 8 7-round mocks. It was a lot, but it's a really good exercise, and it gives you an idea of like where you should be targeting different position groups and whatnot. So it's, like you said, it's a really cool website.
Yeah, and on a related note, for my viewers, tonight I'll be coming back. I'll be dropping a recorded video with a guy, Joe Kachi, I think is how you say his name, of LFG Pats Pod, and we're going to be doing one of those single team fanatic mode challenges, 3 rounds, 5 times, bringing up a whole bunch of new prospects. So let's dive right into this. We talked beforehand. TJ is going to handle the odds. He's a Steelers fan. We don't hold that against him, but so he's going to be able to handle the Steelers picks. And we were talking about how this draft is interesting because, no trade. Start there. That how it's interesting because like when you split the odds and evens, the teams with pairs of picks, you really get to handle easily. So the odds, you've got the Rams will have 13 and 27, I think it is. And then the evens will be the Browns have 6 and 24. The Cowboys have 12 and 20. So it makes it a little easier to split them like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah,
All
I'll
right,
go
so
ahead and
we've
kick us
got
off
your
here.
boys on the clock,
Yep.
or Raiders on the clock. Fernando Mendoza, I assume, or
Yep. I was about to say you made it really challenging. I have to make the most difficult pick in the draft. Fernando Mendoza it is at number 1. Gosh, if we're gonna twist my arm, I guess I'll do it.
all right, there we go. You know what I mean? That's the chalk pick right now for everybody. It's the presumptive number one pick. So there's not really a whole lot of analysis that needs to go into it. The one thing I will say, and I've continually said this throughout the process, is I'm interesting. Well, I've continually said this for roughly the past month anyway, is that I'm interested in how the dynamic with Clint Kubiak and Fernando Mendoza is going to work out. Because in my experience, just watching the NFL throughout the years, you've got to have a type A personality between your head coach and your quarterback. And I don't know if either one of those guys is that. I think we've seen like Miami bring comes to mind, where Tua and Mike McDaniels, it was like, well, it worked cool for a little bit, but when the shit hits the fan, kind of, it's you've got to have a guy, and I don't know which one of those guys is going to be the guy. So I'm curious to see how that works.
Yeah, and to me, I think that'll be Mendoza. Like everything I've heard about the dude is that he's a gamer and like he's super smart, cerebral guy, and just like competitive out the wazoo. And I think you kind of even saw that with the national championship game. Like the feel of I'm from 5 minutes down the road, y'all pass me up. Like this is the bed, you're going to sleep in it now. So I think he kind of has that edge. But I've also heard Clint Kubiak is much more reserved. So I'm saying that about Mendoza, knowing I know what a little bit I know about Clint Kubiak. But ultimately, I do think stylistically, I think it's a good scheme fit. The one thing that's going to have to be figured out is Mendoza played 2 snaps last year under center. So that's going to be a big transition. And that's going to be the world that he lives in with the Clint Kubiak offense. But just pieces wise, like heavy personnel, passing, establishing that run, getting into a zone blocking scheme. I think the pieces they have there, it kind of fits with a lot of what they're working with. So I think it's a clean transition. The question is going to really be like, Matt Ryan went number 1 overall. Jared Goff went number 1 overall. Now it's Mendoza. And it's like, are these guys ever going to be above like top 8 quarterbacks in the class in the league?
Right.
That's the question mark. And, I would argue Goff hasn't. I would argue Ryan never did. And I would probably say, I don't know, it's going to be a tough hill to climb for Mendoza. But if there's anybody in this class that could get you there, it's certainly Fernando.
Yeah. I think the balance in the press conferences will be interesting because Kubiak, like I said, like you said, I've heard is a quieter guy, and Mendoza talks like a kid who's had too much sugar and is really, really excited about everything. He's like, I'm really, really happy to be here. Las Vegas is really, really great. And Coach Kubiak, he's really taught me a lot of things. And I'm really excited about the opportunities he's given me. And he's never heard a punctuation when he talks. It's just like a constant stream of thought. And it's all really, really excited and really, really happy. And, it's like double descriptors all the time. And it's going to be an interesting mix over there.
He's also the guy that within like an hour after winning a national championship updated his LinkedIn profile to say national championship winning quarterback. So like, I don't know. I hear what you're saying, but I'm also like, this guy's a sicko. So we will see.
Yeah, no, he's quirky. He's quirky is the word.
One of one, that's for sure.
All right. So listen, we've got the Jets here at number 2, and they've got some choices to make. Sonny Styles just blew up the combine, but he plays an off linebacker position, and it's tough to take that so high in the draft. Arvell Reese plays the edge, great at the combine, also great all season. But he's a little bit of like a transition to edge, and I don't know how much I trust that. Also at edge, like he doesn't really have ideal measurements. He doesn't really have like a kind of ideal body type that I would look for, I think, in terms of arm length and that sort of thing. David Bailey, however, he's got the history, proven out, several years across different programs, effective at the edge. I think he improved a little bit against the run this year, and that's really been the knock on him beyond the personality stuff, which is, listen, I kind of want my edge rushers to be a little bit of a psycho anyway. So that's not a big problem for me. Just go over, get that quarterback, make his life miserable, and I'm happy with that. So David Bailey, he's going to be the pick here, second to the Jets, which is the other pair of picks we forgot about. Also fall both on the evens. So
yeah, 100%. I'm with you. I think it's going to be, as much as I would just take Bain and call it a day's work right there. I also think Cardell Tate could be interesting there just to get a big physical X receiver. Obviously, post combine, that's like harder to say now because now he runs the mid 4.5s and he's obviously like a mere mortal compared to all the people at Indy that decided to participate. So, which that's a bigger conversation for another day, how the combine should be working next year. But it does feel like kind of Reese or Bailey there too, especially post Jermaine Johnson trade. So I'm with this. I think Bailey even more. I have Bain ranked higher, but Bailey to me is clearing away the best pure pass rusher in this class. And Reese maybe in 5 years is better than Bailey, but that's like it's going to take a little bit of a transition. It's going to take a creative coach. It's going to take the right coach really to kind of coach him up from hand usage. What's the pass rush plan? How deep can the bag? But like there's a lot of work to get him there versus David Bailey. It's just like draft the guy, and you feel like you can get there pretty soon. So I'm kind of with you. Bailey
quarterback.
Yeah, right, exactly. And he may not be great against the run, but like he's a flamethrower as a pass rusher. So like get that guy on your team.
100%.
Let's see.
All right, so you're up with Arizona.
Yeah, so Bailey off the board at 2. So I haven't done this in yet a mock yet, but this might be a good place to do it. I haven't heard any word about a Budda Baker trade, but just doing enough of those fixing the franchises using that simulator does feel like Budda Baker is an expendable asset. So maybe we're just kind of projecting forward. Baker's off the team. You go Caleb Downs here. I also don't hate Sonny Styles or Arvell Reese here. Reese, in some ways, like this team's still trying to figure out pass rush. They also need off-ball linebacker. So, like, Reese, it's a little bit of a projection. Like, what is he going to be? But could he be 2 birds, 1 stone for this team? Maybe. I'm just going to go Sonny Styles, though. Best non-quarterback in the class. I know it's not sexy to take a linebacker at 3, but Styles is like a different linebacker than I've ever really put my eyes on. Because even the guys I have given a blue chip grade to, those guys all transitioned to edge. Carter, Parsons, Jalen Walker, all became edge rushers, and I all kind of factored them in as edge rushers. So Styles is the first true like off-ball linebacker I've given a blue chip grade to, but range, tackling ability, prototypical size. The only thing he really doesn't have is like insane ball production and coverage, but the way Ohio State plays, especially like when they run cover 2, like Caleb Downs is the guy that comes over and plays that middle hook zone. So what could have been maybe when it comes to ball production had he been in that role and not another freaky player in Caleb Downs. So I think the world of Sonny Styles, and again, not the sexiest position to draft, but one of the guys I'm most sure about hitting at the next level. So position of need for the Cardinals, and I'm willing to take that shot here at 3.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you too. And I see Styles. Look, I think it would be wise anyway to try and play him like kind of a Nick Eman-Worry type role that we saw this year. I mean, he's Nick Eman-Worry, but 20 pounds heavier.
100%.
So it's like he should be able to to defend the run, but also cover well enough to just kind of be on the field all the time, give you multiple looks, keep the offense guessing really about what you're planning on doing.
And you look at the cheat code a guy like Eman-Worry and Seattle's front had last year, where you can just live in nickel. You can just live in too high. Like that is such a cheat code to have there. And what I will say, we're not doing a second round here, but you could go CC Moanoa here at 3, but I feel like they're at 34. Ian Achor, maybe he's not there. Blake Miller, I feel pretty good about one of those 2 being there. Like I would be surprised if one of the 2 doesn't make it to the second pick in the second round. So that's part of also my thinking here. Go get Sonny Styles here. You may be able to get a linebacker like Trotter or Allen, but I feel better about a combo of Styles here, one of those 2 right tackles at 34 versus tackle here, linebacker later.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. All right. Well, we got the Titans here on the clock, and look, we've already seen Robert Saleh start to kind of shape the Titans defense over there. Mm-hmm. They went with the edge rusher Oluwafemi last year in the second round. I was a big fan of him actually coming out of the Senior Bowl. And then they picked up Jermaine Johnson from the Jets, who obviously Saleh has experience with. So he's already kind of got a good start on the defense in terms of edge rusher. So I think I'm going to stay away from Bain and Reese. I'm going to flip to the offensive side of the ball, where it becomes about Carnell Tate versus Jordan Tyson. Yeah. And listen, I haven't heard anything bad about Jordan Tyson coming out of the combine. And that's where you should hear, by the way, this guy's made of straight porcelain. Don't draft him. It's going to be a problem. He's missed a ton of games in college. But between him and Tate, the one who has a proven history of being a number 1 receiver and being able to carry a team in an offense is Tyson. And I think Tate kind of slots in better on a team where he can be a number 2. And, like he was in college, similar to the way we saw Egbuka slide into the Tampa Bay Bucks last year. And Granted, there are a couple games there where he had to be the number one, and he didn't disappoint, but he still fit better as the number two. And I kind of project Tate in a similar way, role, production, all of that to what we saw from McBuka. So I like Tyson here to the Titans. He should be able to carry that offense, provided he can stay on the field.
Yeah, no, I like that fit a lot. And the tough part about Tyson is it's not just soft tissue injuries. It's not just freak fractures. It's like, okay, it's your shoulder, it's your hamstring, it's your knee. Like, what's going on here? So it's a complicated picture to kind of navigate through. But in the same light, I just look at Brian Daboll coming in as the OC, and he's the OC. He's not making this pick, but he had Steph Diggs in Buffalo to be the volume guy. He had, in when he was healthy with the Giants, he had Malik Neighbors to be the volume of that offense. So I wonder if he looks at Jordan Tyson's skill set as like a sharp route runner who I can just pepper the football to. But that's the guy. And then you have DK Umanor just kind of playing off of that. So I'm kind of with you. I like the Tyson fit there. Tate's probably the safer option just because you don't have a guy who missed 48% of his college games or whatever. And he can play on the outside, and all that makes sense to me too. But Tyson to me is like, it's a risky proposition at 4, but the payoff here for the Titans could be immense. So then that takes us to the Giants, and I'm going back and forth basically between Tate or CeCe Moe-Noah. In a lot of ways, I'm trying to think, and we're not doing a second round, but like what's available there at the top of the second round? Probably Jeremy Bernard, who I'm content with taking there from the Giants. So I'm kind of leaning towards the offensive line. Let me double check. Who's their center from last year? Because I would lean towards offensive tackle
is it
here.
JMS, John Michael Schmitz, maybe?
I think it might be JMS still. Let me double check real quick. Yeah, that does seem to be the case. But then John Runyon and Greg Van Roten. So it's like, could you still go Spencer Fano here? Because let's be honest, you can move on from any of those 3 offensive linemen, interior offensive linemen, guys. Because Schmitz even hasn't really worked out to his fullest, what we could have thought coming out of Minnesota. Or do you just go CeCe Moe-Noah and then Umanor's going to walk? That's a tough one.
Yeah, because I see Spencer Fano as kind of like an AVT comp, kind of where he's a dude who you can totally. You'll get your best 5 on the field. Doesn't really matter where he's playing, essentially.
And that's why my last mock for the Browns, and now granted they've just traded for Titus Howard or whatever, but the Browns, it's like no matter where it is on the O-line, like Spencer Fano fits in. Like I don't care who the other pieces are, like there's a spot for Spencer Fano there. The Giants, it's more so you're saying that's on the interior, which I don't know if I want to do here. So let's go with CeCe Moe-Noah. I think Jermaine Illuminor is going to get a lot of attention in free agency, and I could just see that being a market where it's like, hey, look, he's a 32-year-old off the tackle, and he just got offered $15 million a year for 2 years. So it's like, congratulations, Kansas City, or congratulations, X, Y, and Z. You now have Jermaine Illuminor, and I could just see them drafting a similar skill set here with CeCe Moe-Noah. But I will say, if I didn't take Sonny Styles at 3, this is the floor. This is the floor. Like this is John Harbaugh getting Roquan Smith in Baltimore type of stuff. If Sonny Styles is there at 5, I'm sprinting that card enough on the Giants.
Well, I was going to say too
or you go Reese here.
The difference for Harbaugh in Baltimore defensively was the safety, Kyle Hamilton. So I wouldn't, Caleb Downs maybe a consideration for the Giants.
I'm a big Javon Holland believer, though, so I'm going to say that he gets back on track. I was a big Javon Holland guy coming out of Oregon. Guy can play free, strong, and slot. I think he could be that kind of. But you're not wrong to highlight Caleb Downs because maybe both of them is really the code to unlock that defense. So
yeah, hey, all right. Well, listen, at 6 here, I did this. Now we've been seeing a lot of people coming out of the combine talking about this. Todd McShay, for one, was talking about it yesterday on a couple different YouTube like guest appearances I saw. But I have been doing this since last week, before the combine and before the measurements. I told you this was potentially going to happen, and Monroe Freeling is going to go 6th to the Browns. I think that this is going to happen in real life, to be honest. I think that it's just positional value, positional scarcity. Like, try and find a left tackle in free agency. Good luck. Doesn't happen. They're not there. They don't get to the market. Doesn't matter what the situation is, really. And then, in the draft, there are just, even in this class alone, almost every tackle that's on the board, there's talk about, well, does he need to move inside? Now, Fano, hey, he could move to center. Now, does he need to move inside? On and on down the board. Lomu. every prospect on honestly almost is either right tackle exclusive or does he need to move inside. And Monroe Freeling is the one guy who isn't like that. Nobody's really talking about does he need to move inside. He has ideal measurements, ideal athleticism. Now, he doesn't have ideal experience, and he wasn't the greatest run blocker last year, but it did kind of come together for him at the end of the year, I thought.
Yeah.
And I think that he could just continue along that line and turn into a real good starting left tackle in this league. And I think that, like, timing wise for Cleveland too, like it's fine for a guy who's kind of like developing maybe with a high ceiling. You don't need a high floor guy that's going to come right in right now and be the best offensive lineman on your line or whatever, So I think it's a good fit for them there.
Yeah, no, I agree. And especially for Todd Monken offense, where like I agree with you. Freeling is still a work in progress as a run blocker, but where he is a good run blocker is getting out in space. Get this dude off the formation, let him be a lead blocker in both, outside zone or in the screen game. And that's really the best of his run blocking comes in those types of scenarios. So good fit for Todd Monken. And it's one of these things where, like, if you're confident you can get this guy 5 to 10 pounds of muscle stronger, think about where he'd be going if he did that at college in next year's class. So for some people, you're going to be like, holy cow, Freeling now at 6, that's so early. But it's like, in a lot of ways, the Browns are kind of looking at this. Like you said, we're ahead. We have the opportunity to play with time. Time's on our side. We get to buy this guy a year ahead, basically. And would he go 6 maybe next year? I don't know. It's tough to say just because of how many blue chippers we're going to have next year. But if he picked up where he left off at Georgia, he might be one of those blue chippers that's going 6 overall. So it is interesting to try to like get ahead of the curve. And I do think, with Titus Howard, you play him at right tackle, Monroe Freeling there at left. Okay, pieces are starting to come together. So I'm with you. I think Freeling or Fano here. Fano to be an interior offensive line, kind of Tyler Linderbaum for Monken, or you go Freeling and try to get your tackle tandem set up for the future. So I think that makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, you and Corey Kinnan were two people who were like, right before, even before the combine, like 2 weeks out, where it's like Freeling's gonna be the pick at 6 that you see most common. So you guys definitely called your shot there, and you guys nailed that one. So then, what do we want to do here with the Commanders at 7? I
know what I would do if I had them, but just because I think Arvell Reese with Dan Quinn is perfect.
That's where I'm leaning. That's where the reason I kind of like finding that projection place for Reese can be a little tough sometimes. But they already have Frankie Louvu in Washington, and like that's the role. Play him at edge, play him at off ball, let him be chaos with 2 legs. So I'm kind of leaning that direction. But in this mock, we not only have Reese, we have Ruben Band, we have Caleb Downs, and we have Cardinal Tate, who, like, I know that defense was atrocious last year, but Tate at the X, that makes McLaurin's role that much easier. Move him off the line of scrimmage. Debo, if you bring him back in the slot, like it's the one piece that could move everything right in the right place. Or do you trade back, right? Like you could get a haul from Pittsburgh. But no, I think I'm with you. I'm going to go with Arvell Reese. They already kind of have that role set in stone with Frankie Louvu. Bobby Wagner getting up there in age too. So it's probably good to just go ahead and address that linebacker position with a shot in the arm and infusion of youth. So I'll go with Arvell Reese because I think they do have a good roadmap for like best usage possible for Arvell.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Quinn really was a key component in turning Micah Parsons into what Micah Parsons became. Who Micah Parsons, when he came out, was a raw prospect who transitioning from linebacker to edge, still learning kind of the refinement and stuff. Right. So, I think that makes a whole lot of sense there. All right. Well, I am on the clock here with the Saints. Apparently, Saints users feel like Bain would be BPA in this particular situation, and I can see that.
Yeah.
I've also thought about Love.
I think that one makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, I mean they've really relied heavily on the run game there. Kamara is definitely on the downhill side of his career.
And frankly, wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being traded / just released in general. Like I'm not really too sure he's in New Orleans next year. We've been saying that for a few years though. That is it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know there was talk about him being traded at the deadline, but he didn't want to be traded. He really loved New Orleans and da-da-da-da-da. So let's see. Yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and grab Jeremiah Love. A lot of people have him as the top player or one of the top 2 players in the class at very least. Certainly a top 5 player, top at his position. What positional value is what drives these guys down right now. Is the running back just simply isn't being valued in the NFL like it used to be. But Jeremiah Love is a guy that you're going to be able to ride as your bell cow back. Essentially, he's going to be able to do a little bit of everything for you, a lot of everything for you, honestly.
Totally.
So, yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense here to take over the reins from Kamara as the Saints pick.
And Kendra Miller, he's a big play back, but he can't stay healthy. So, like, Love is the more athletic, explosive pass game back. And then Devin Neal from Kansas, who doesn't have the same, 4.36 speed at his disposal, but has great vision, great lateral shiftiness. So, I think those two guys play off each other really, really well for an offense that Kellen Moore wants to pound the rock. Like, he wants to run the ball a lot. And speaking of, like, I said the same thing about the Commanders at 7. We have an abundance, too many choices here for the Kansas City Chiefs. Because down
Chiefs fans love us right now.
Yeah, Ruben Bain would make all the sense in the world. In a lot of ways, I feel like he's the top guy they would be targeting. But I'm also looking at Carnell Tate at 9, and it's like, what's going on with the Rashee Rice thing? Will he ever, be able to sort this out? Xavier Worthy, I don't know if you look at that as worth a first-round pick at this point in his career. So do you go get the big body, physical X receiver that has eluded them for the last, 5 to 10 years, and then lean into it being a deep, edge class? Again, we're not doing a second round, but if you go Tate here at 9, there's certainly no one that's really of that skill set at 40. And at 40, you're probably looking at edge options that include maybe TJ Parker, but Zion Young, R. Mason Thomas, Gabe Akis, Derek Moore, all guys who I think fit. So I have yet to do this in a mock. And frankly, I probably should have done it the other day in my mock. I had Tate get past this point. I went Sadiq here instead, which Sadiq also put him on the table because how are you going to replace Travis Kelce? But I'm going to go Carnell Tate here. This is the big boundary receiver they have been missing. What's the kid from Clemson? Jordan Ross, if I remember that name right, who was a freak his freshman year, and then he's always in the Chiefs training camp year in and year out, making preseason highlights. But that's pretty much the extent of his Chiefs tenure. So let's go get an actual first round top 10 talent version of that skill set, and let's go with Carnell Tate.
Okay, Tate it is. That makes a whole lot of sense there. Yeah.
And now you're looking at Downs and Bain. One of these two guys gets out of the top 10. We don't know what we're talking about here, Randy.
Yeah. Well, we do not know ball. I don't know if we've ever even watched football. This might be the worst mock ever.
Yeah, 100%. That's my favorite tweet. After the first round, somebody just tweets out the actual first round draft, and they're like, "Worst mock ever." It's the best tweet every
Yep.
year.
Look, Bain to me is tricky, man, and it's like, look, he's got those tiny little arms, and you don't want it to be all about measurements, but sometimes it is about measurements. It is what it is, okay? And you've got to have the tools to be successful in this league. And it's not that I don't think he'll be successful. I just think there's a chance he won't be able to play edge. And if he can't play edge, then where's he going to play? I can't beef him up 25, 30 pounds and put him inside necessarily. Sure. And that's what it's going to take. He showed up to the combine at 263. I mean, you got to put 30 pounds onto that to put him inside if he doesn't work on the edge. And that's a tricky projection. You're never going to be able to move him further outside. He's not the type of, wide 9 linebacker, DPR sort of guy. So it's just very tricky to me. And so I'm going to go with Downs here for the Bengals. I don't think that their defense has been quite the same since they let Jesse Bates, that's his name. Yes, Bates. Yeah. Since they let him go to Atlanta. And I think the Downs can come in here and be a game changer for them.
I don't hate it whatsoever. It's a defense that needs to have its floor raised, and that's exactly what Caleb Downs brings to the table. He will just take away some of the busted coverages, the poor tackling. He'll just clean up the picture there immensely in Cincinnati. So then we get to the Dolphins here, and this is kind of interesting. Again, I haven't had this happen yet, but I've been hearing that, Jeff Hafley likes his 4-man fronts. Bradley Chubb getting up there in age. Let me double check. Yeah, he's about to turn 30 once we get to June. And then Chubb Robinson, who's a little bit more of a 3-4 outside linebacker type than I'd say hand in the dirt type.
Didn't they let Chubb go?
Did they already let Chubb go? I'm just looking at the PFF.
Him with Tyreek Hill, right?
Oh, did they? Yeah, you might be right. I think you might be right. I'm ready for these rosters to get updated on our lads and whatnot. Let's see. I think you're right. Yep, they are. So you know what? I'm going to go Ruben Bain. If they're trying to go to a 4-man front, keep the kid in state, in city, all of it. Ruben Bain Jr. And then I could honestly still see a world where they move on from Chop Robinson because, again, still not a hand in the dirt type of pass rusher. But also, if you have Bain as your power rusher, Chop as your explosive first step, speed, finesse type of rusher, it's kind of a nice 1-2 punch on the opposite side. So I think this is declaratively the first time I've had a mock with Ruben Bain going to Miami. So here we go. We're making history.
Listen, I'm all about low moving costs. Okay,
100%.
low moving costs. I
New
like it. I
owners
think
coming in,
also,
new head coach. They've spent enough money. Low move, Ruben down the street. Come on, bud.
yeah, yeah, and you got to like that from a marketing standpoint. As Miami, like, listen, this
Oh
is a
yeah.
hometown hero. You know, we brought a
His
came
last
here
game
and
played was in the national championship
yep,
in this field, on this field, and now he's coming home. Yeah, 100 5-star recruit from that. Yeah, 100%.
yeah,
This is like jersey sales galore here for the Dolphins. You need a face of the franchise. Boom! I just
mhm.
gave you one.
Yeah, no, that would work out great.
And I did
Um,
also, I will say, disappointing here for Dallas because I did contemplate like, hey, do we want to do a little one pick trade here? Miami could, and they have 3 third-round picks, but they need all the picks they could possibly get to overall that roster. And Dallas, man, I bet they're looking at Ruben Bain sweating. Like, oh my God, how do I get that guy? That guy plays run defense. Need him.
yeah. Yeah, no, they would like something like that, I think. I think they're gonna have their chances on the D line later on though.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
I like Mansour Delane here at 12 for them. His ex-college coach is now their defensive back positions coach. It's the guy that recruited him to Virginia. It just makes a lot of sense fit wise. You know, there are some concerns in terms of like having an ideal body, having ideal athleticism, and so forth. But he does have ideal production at the highest level in college. Um, so I think Delane makes sense as the first corner off the board. And I think there are too many questions for me to feel comfortable about taking Jermon McCoy this early. They need cornerback help, so Delane's the guy for me.
Yeah, and I also love it because you moved Ron Bland back in the nickel. Like I think at this point we've seen he can play outside, but most optimal spot for Deron Bland is definitely in the slot. So, and then you basically have Kalen Carson and Chavon Ravel like battle it out. Who's going to be the other outside corner? So Delane, such a high floor guy. The footwork is just phenomenal. So really like him as a fit there for Dallas. And you may be afraid to take Jermon McCoy, but I think that's going to be the route I go here. The alternative would be, do you go Lemon here at 13 and then go corner at 29? That would be the only thing that kind of moves me off of this.
I guess I would think about Fano too, because Havenstein just retired.
Yeah, I wonder if they're good with Warren McClendon, though. The more I think about it, what they did with Alaric Jackson would be basically what they can do with Warren McClendon now. And all I have is past performance as a future indicator of what they might do. So they were content with an Alaric. Let me just triple check. He was a day 3 pick, if my memory holds, and then played well. They let him basically earn the spot, and it wasn't always perfect or anything like that. But I think right now they're pretty content with him being a starting left tackle. So I wonder if they look at Warren McClendon in the same type of light where they're like, hey, he was pretty good last year. Yeah, actually, Alaric was undrafted, it looks like. And then, 5th-round pick for Warren McClendon. So 2 guys where it's like, we didn't expect it. Or like the Pittsburgh Steelers and Dylan Cook. It's like, oh, well, we didn't expect that to happen, but okay. Like, fine, cool. We'll roll with this. So like here, I'm trying not to give away my cards, but I may be trying to copy Dane Brugler and what he just did in his 2-round mock that came out today, because what he does at 29 is like, I kind of love it. So I'm going to go with Jermon McCoy. As much as I love Mekhi Lemon, to me, he's the first receiver I'm taking off the board. Like, I just love the tape, love the football player. There's just so much tenacity, scrappiness, moxie, all those little buzzwords that kind of work for an undersized receiver, but he brings all that to the table. That being said, I'm going to go with Jermon McCoy. This team just gets bullied by every big receiver they face. And they just hired Tennessee's DB coach to be their DB coach. So if there's anybody with an inside track on where his knee is at, it feels like it's the LA Rams. And we've also seen where they're willing to take a risk on some of these guys who are injury coming off of it, and they're willing to see if they get a steal basically and turn out of it. So
yeah,
This is the Falcons pick. This is house money. Right. Let's go see what Jermon McCoy could be for us.
Yeah. Hey, screw it. Why not? The
Falcons,
I didn't know about the DB coach being his DB coach or that sort of thing. So that's an interesting
name. Once I saw that, I was like, okay, it's either Colton Hood at 29 or it's Jermon McCoy at 13. Then,
well, and that brings up, if he slides, if they don't take him at 13, then that's a real red flag to me. Like,
right, yeah,
the guy that has the inside track doesn't want him, and you need a corner. That's something to keep an eye on. So interesting there. All right. We've got Baltimore on the clock, and look, here's the deal. Their defense collapsed this year. Madubuike being out, and we don't know if he's coming back. It's a whole lot of mystery surrounding that medical situation. I don't like how that went. And look, they need help on the offensive line. I've seen people take Yawani for them here. But I like Caleb Banks here. I'm a little bit worried about the foot injury. I'm not going to lie. Not only did he miss all the time last year and all that? But at the combine, he had to stop working out because of an issue with his shoe. And to me, that's like, man, I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm not a doctor. I'm not a podiatrist for sure, but I am a big guy with big feet and they suck. And, and it's, big guys have big feet and they have big foot problems and it hurts and they never go away. It never gets better. It's kind of like a bad back. You've never in your life met someone who used to have a bad back. Now, you just either have a bad back or you don't. It's not something you used to have and it got better. Same thing with big guys and their feet problems. Okay. And these things started early for him. They're not ever going to not be a problem, I don't think. That said, he is wildly athletic. He is built like you were building a defensive tackle in a Madden game. And it's super exciting. When he's on the field, he's going to be real impact player. And I think if you can manage, the foot issues correctly and, given medical care these days, it's a lot easier to do those sorts of things. So I like Caleb Banks going here 14 to Baltimore.
Yeah, this is what I had in my last mock, and I'll say this as a Steelers fan. This is like one thing that I may not be the world's biggest Caleb Banks fan. I'm kind of with you. The often injured college players tend to be often injured NFL players. Not always, but typically. And he's also a guy, like the pad level to me is just a little bit of a concern. It just, more often than not, he's shooting up, not out. And you kind of see that in the run game. That being said, as a Steelers fan, like, could this turn into like Haloli Nada, like type of like people mover force in the middle of that defense that gives me like nightmares for 10 years? He absolutely could be. So like, that's where like landing spot, the player, the development factory that is Baltimore, like that's where it gets really kind of scary. And also I think at this point too, like I did in my last mock, glad we're doing it here. I think at this point, he probably is the first IDL off the board. Just Peter Woods not testing. He's a little more sawed off than we kind of thought. It kind of feels like Caleb Banks has got that inside track to be IDL 1. And my last thought on this, same thing I said in my last mock, but that was a team that was going to draft Jordan Davis until the Eagles leapfrogged them. And both those teams that afterwards they kind of talked about, and they were like planet theory, basically. Like there's only one guy on the face of the earth that plays and moves like Jordan Davis, and it's Jordan Davis. So I wonder if the Ravens look at Caleb Banks and they're like, uh-oh, there it is. There's the planet theory guy again. So let's go get him. So that said, I'll be real quick here at 15. I'm going to go Kenyon Sadiq. I don't love it, but like, dude, he ran a sub 4.4. He's not getting the back half of the first round. And if he did, like Sean Payton's probably like phoning up every single person he possibly can to be like, I need Jimmy Graham / Taysom Hill / all these guys, this ultimate weapon that is Kenyon Sadiq, the ultimate joker. So I'll go with it here for Tampa. It's a little weird because like you're letting Cade Otton go, and like how much could he actually demand for in the open market? He's probably a cheap re-sign. But I think Sadiq's a better blocker. He's a more athletic pass catcher. He's a better yards after the catch guy. So in a lot of ways, he's just a better football player. And in the event that, let's just say 3 years down the road, the Bucs might not have Mike Evans or Chris Godwin on that roster. So 3 years from now, you might be looking at this like, thank goodness we have Kenyon Sadiq, because he's pass catcher number 2 behind Emeka Egbuka and right ahead of Jalen McMillan, or whatever the order ends up being there with those 3 guys. But you may be, halfway through his rookie contract, counting your stars and counting your blessings that you did make this pick because you need that pass catcher in your offense. So I'm going to go with Kenyon Sadiq. Also, I will say, like, him leading the way for Bucky Irving feels like an unfair advantage in that run game. So I like Sadiq there at 15.
Yeah. I do think that the one guy that I would have thought about there that I don't think I've seen mocked there or heard people say is Fano, because if any team in the league could have used kind of that chess piece on the offensive line last year, it was probably the team whose starting center started left tackle for them several games.
And dude, I really like Duke Barton. I like Barton as a center. If you put Fano next to him at either left or right guard, oh my God, like that would be explosive. So I did think about that. And frankly, I think you're right. You haven't seen it in any of these mocks because typically he's off the board by now. So I did have that thought popping in my mind, but I was also like, Sadiq's got to come off the board as well. So let's go with Kenyon.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I just, super versatility on the offensive line.
But to your point here, if the Jets lose AVT, that's the guy you shouted out earlier. So not to make it for you, but.
Yeah, no, and that's true. So the Jets are back up on the clock now. Just a reminder, I took David Bailey for them second. And, that gives them the edge rush that they need. Trying to look here to see. Look, they need cornerback help, but I just don't see one that I could justify taking here. And what they need more than anything is some legitimate somewhere. I mean, look, they need people to catch the ball everywhere. Okay,
Yeah,
whether it's
100%.
cornerback or wide receiver, it doesn't matter. Nobody there has any hands. Garrett Wilson led this team in yards, despite the fact he didn't play beyond early October, and I think he only had like 400 and change in receiving yards.
You know,
Um,
I think it was under. Am I remembering this right? Was it the Colts or I think it was the Jets? Were they the first team to like have their leading receiver under 400 yards? Hold on, let me look this up real quick.
was it under? Was it like 393 or something
I think
like
it was
that?
like 397. It's really close, but I think they became the first team in NFL history to finish a year without a receiver clearing like 400 yards receiving. But let
That's
me double
just
check
the
that real
Jets
quick.
being the Jets, man.
Yeah, 395. That was the leading receiver. That was Garrett Wilson. That is absurd.
Okay. Yeah, so first team in however long to have a leading receiver for the season under 400 yards, and also the first team to not have a single interception forced all season long.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's really bad. Mekhi Lemon's going to help solve one of those problems. I'm going to throw him here. Look, there's been some negative buzz about him since the combine, but frankly, again, I said it with Boston at the beginning of this draft, or Bailey rather, at the beginning of this draft. I want my edges to be a little psycho, and I don't care if my wide receivers are divas.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't care if they're a little crazy. Just get out there, catch the ball, and run away from the defense. That's all I need you to do, and Mekhi Lemons does it really well. Everything that he lacks in his game, like nothing that he lacks in his game is about something he does. It's just about his size. That's the only drawbacks. Okay. It's picking at his words in a press conference is just being bored and trying to find shit wrong about him. But the reality is there's not a lot wrong about this guy as an NFL receiver. He's going to be great opposite Garrett Wilson. It's going to give this team some legitimate options to throw to. If they could just find a legitimate quarterback, that'd be the other half of the equation, and they'd be a much more challenging team to play next year.
100%. And in this outcome, would I like them to have like an X, like a true physical receiver? Yeah, sure. One of two things could happen. This could be the team that signs Romeo Dobbs for $18 to $20 million. I think that could make some sense. And in that case, now Lemon becomes your slot, Z, Wilson's the other. Okay. Or you just play Adonai Mitchell as the X, and you just kind of deal with a little bit more slightly built kind of guy at that spot, but long speed and, kind of big catch ability for days with Adonai Mitchell. So that could be available as well. But, I'm with you. Like the combine stuff for Lemon, and I say that as someone who has Lemon as wide receiver one, so bias for sure. But yeah, it just feels like we've gotten to that point where it's like, okay, we have to start nitpicking these guys. We have to start hating on everyone / like, not to say that you and I are better than anybody, but there's certain people who have been doing this for months and have their evaluations kind of set in stone. And then there's people who are kind of jumping on the bandwagon now and kind of getting on the fun. And it feels like maybe that new wave of attention has come and found Mekhi Lemon, and they didn't really take a liking to it. Now, that being said, Adam Gase was a weird press conference. He was weird, and we had reason to be sussed out by that. So I'm not saying Mekhi Lemon is going to be Adam Gase, because I certainly don't feel that way. But like what we said about Caleb Downs, where he's a floor raiser to that Bengals defense, Mekhi Lemon's ability to get open, make tough grabs. He's never tackled where he catches the football. That's going to raise the floor of that offense. So him and Wilson, that's a small wide receiver combo, but whether it's signing Romeo Dobbs or just drafting a dude in like on day 3, here's who you go get. Either late 3rd round or early day 3, you get one of these players. Dejon Stribling, if he makes it there, home run hit. Maybe you go get the other receiver from USC, Jacoby Lane, let him be an X receiver for you. Bryce Lance, Jeff Caldwell, 2 guys that just blew up the combine. There's big body receivers you can make a sacrificial X later on in this class too. So long tangent aside, just wanted to kind of piggyback on that.
And I mean, look, I promise you, nobody is going to go, well, listen, how does he handle a press conference when they're drafting their wide receiver? Because nobody gives a shit. They want to know how he handles the ball.
There's an extra column at the end of the sheet, and it's like his route running, his hands, his athleticism, his press conference ability. It's just the last column. That would be amazing. But you know what, real quick, getting back on track here, for the Lions, home run scenario, Spencer Fano. I think we just found our Frank Ragnow replacement specifically. I think let's just play him at center. Let's freaking go for it. I just saw that Graham Glasgow seems to be like he's going to be the next cap casualty / he might retire. I think is what I saw. But either way,
it was a goodbye message for sure.
Yeah. Let's replace him with Spencer Fano.
That makes a lot of sense. And then you can take Rutledge.
Yeah,
They
Ratledge
drafted
keeping
out of
the
Georgia
guard.
last year, can shift
Yeah,
back to
exactly.
guard for good and not have to worry about anything there.
And then
Makes a
you have
lot of
Miles
sense to me.
Frazier, you draft in the 4th round last year, or maybe 5th round, but day 3 guy who had a good Senior Bowl. Let him and Christian Mahogany battled out for left guard. Maybe even you sign a guy like Dalton Reisner in free agency, 31 years old, pretty cheap. You know, you can find a quote unquote budget left guard, but Fano here at center, that gets you back on track with what you lost with Ragnow.
Yeah, no, I agree. Here we're on the clock at 18. And listen, I did watch your most recent mock draft. I said I never miss a video, and I meant that. And I thought deeply about Dylan Thieneman here.
Okay.
Deeply. But then the news came out yesterday that the Vikings are looking to trade Jonathan Greenard.
Yeah.
And then I look at these guys here, and look, the Minnesota fans of the draftprofessor.com, they're a smart bunch, I have no doubt. And they have TJ Parker listed as the 3rd option right here. And you know what? That makes sense to me. If you're going to trade away Jonathan Greenard, you've got to add an edge presence to replace him. You just have to. And he's the best guy on the board right now. I don't see why we wouldn't take him and plug him right in there.
Interesting. I know part of the reason they're doing that is to get Dallas Turner on the field a little bit more. That being said, with how they deployed Van Ginkel, both off the ball, blitzing, I don't know if he factors fully into the edge conversation because they ask him to do so many different things. So, like, we're just looking at the edge tandem of Parker plus Dallas Turner, one guy with speed and finesse, and then one guy with power and long arm. It's a really fun 1-2 punch there. Also, like, Flores does typically rotate guys in on the edge. So, like, having 3-4 guys that can run through the stable definitely makes a lot of sense. The only
now,
thing
if I could sidebar you real quick on that.
Yeah.
You were at the Senior Bowl, right?
Yeah. Yes, I was.
How did you feel about TJ Parker? Because I felt like I heard mixed reports. I felt like there was a lot of mainstream, what I would call, and that's what I would refer to, kind of the big sites nowadays, the big podcasts that were super, super glowingly positive. Yeah. But then I had another friend that was down there, and he said that he thought, and that a lot of scouts he talked to thought that Parker looked disinterested and looked like he was kind of just going through the motions.
I would say day 1 was probably the most fired up we could have seen him. And I wonder just how much that is like, one, these offensive linemen haven't seen me yet, so I get to just have a field day. This can be fun. And then 2, just like coming into that event after your stock's kind of fallen, the buzz around your name has kind of been diminished. So I thought day 1, he came out like a bat out of hell, man. Like he came in explosive, had multiple wins through the chest, had the long arms. So I thought and then I will say like days 2 and 3 maybe didn't have quite the same energy. Maybe it's kind of emblematic of his season this year. Clemson kind of got the hype and then maybe kind of coasted there a little bit. But even in the team drills,
you just described his whole careir.
Yeah, exactly. That every defensive lineman from Clemson ever, pretty much. Good start, and then the rest happens. No, all in all, I will say in the team drills, he continued to flash. He was a guy that all 3 days I was writing his name down, but most certainly on day 1. So I was excited to see TJ Parker. I thought he kind of rejuvenated the image I had in the player from 24-25 season. But that being said, that's with me having that frame of mind where he was awesome a year ago, a little bit disappointing this past season. Looks like he's gotten back on track. So I think it's kind of beauty in the eye of the beholder there. But I do think he still ends up going round 1. And especially in this area where like Dallas makes sense at 20, Carolina at 19, Philadelphia, you can't rule them out 23, Chicago 25, Bills at 26. There's a lot of teams here that all kind of make sense. Vikings at 18 that all could use an edge rusher. So yeah. I think he still ends up going somewhere in the first round. It's just like where in that first round. So, but no, I appreciate you asking. I thought he looked good at the Senior Bowl. The only thing I would have amended and maybe just thrown in as an honorable mention is like, could this be a 3-tech spot? Because Hargrave's can be gone, Jonathan Allen's gone, so maybe backfilling the pass rush in a different spot. Could it have been Peter Woods? I don't know. That's where it's tough. It's like talking about Peter Woods and talking about Ty Simpson in one of these mock drafts just feels like you want a fan base to hate you. If you mock one of those 2 guys to your team, that fan base is coming for your ass. So
interesting.
Honestly, you did outsmart. You went the other Clemson route. I can respect it. What do we want to do here for Carolina?
I was going to say his teammate Peter Woods does continue to fall. That'd be an interesting mix.
Dude, look, I would cut Turk Wharton yesterday. Like he's just not a guy that I'm like itching to pay $15 million a year to. So like you're telling me Peter Woods over Turk Wharton, sign me up for that all day. I also do wonder though, like what's going on? What's going to happen with the Ikem Ekwonu? Let me double check. That was a torn patella tendon, right? Let me triple check.
Oh.
He did it in the playoff game against the Rams. Yeah, patellar tendon. So I don't know the normal turnaround time for that. Patella. Let's see if ChatGPT
That's
can tell me.
not good for an offensive lineman, I know, in particular.
And he's also that's what Rashawn Slater had at the beginning of last year. That's right. Okay, so yeah, we're talking about we're basically talking about him not playing this year, more than likely. And if he does, it's probably like week 15 on. So that being said, he also coming out of NC State, the conversation was, is he a guard or a tackle? Kind of looks like a guard. He's held up at tackle. He's been a fine tackle, but I do wonder if there's a higher ceiling at guard. They also haven't picked up his fifth year, or excuse me, they haven't extended him beyond that 5th year. So is he even on this team beyond this season? So as I currently kind of look at this roster, I'm kind of looking at one of two options. You go Caleb Lomu here, and that's a smooth Ikem Ekwonu replacement, and you're just going to have a more traditional pass-protecting specialist left tackle. Maybe Ikem Ekwonu becomes our left guard. Damian Lewis is getting up there in age, and he makes a lot of money. So that could make sense. Or do you go Caden Proctor here, have him as a guard if you need him right now, and then eventually move him to tackle? But I think I'm going to go Lomu just as I talk through it. The Proctor thing feels shades of the Ikem Ekwonu pick all over again. Is he a guard? Is he a tackle? I'm going to go Caleb Lomu here at 19. Again, Panthers fans, let me know what you think, what's going to go on with Ikem Ekwonu. But Slater missed all of last year, and he got hurt before the year began. So that kind of signals to me that Ikem Ekwonu is out until at least playoffs next year. So let's go ahead and replace that. And again, his contract is done after this year. Let me triple check that. But yeah, he's only signed through 2026 with the 5th year option. Okay. So basically, after this upcoming season, he's a free agent or a potential guard convert. So I'm going to go Caleb Lomu there at 19. It's also tough because I know Eric Eager, who's working in their analytics department, former PFF guy. I know he's not itching to go draft like a tight end or a linebacker in the first round, because that's not his background. So I'm thinking off the tackle, receiver, edge rusher. Where are these valuable positions? So really kind of came down to edge or tackle for me there.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Well, for me right here, this pick for Dallas is pick 20. At 12, we took Mansour Delane, and that kind of addressed some of their cornerback needs. I think right here, what we do is we address the run defense. Mm-hmm. And for me, there are 2 top ways to do that on the board right now. That's basically a coin flip between Keldrick Falk out of Auburn and CJ Allen out of Georgia. I think that Dallas needs someone to run that defense, though, and that's why I'm going to grab C.J. Allen for them.
I respect it.
They had, who was the linebacker from Cincinnati that they grabbed? He's going to hit free agency.
Yeah.
What was his name? I don't know.
I don't know why Blake Cashman's the only white linebacker's name who's coming to Logan Wilson.
Logan Wilson. Yes. He's going to hit free agency. They need help in the run defense game, really. And they haven't been getting that. I think CJ Allen is a guy. He comes in, he's got the reputation for running that Georgia defense. Yeah. Like to the point that I was recently reading that it's like the defensive coordinators are just like, no, I just kind of let him do his thing out there. Like we send in the plays, but like whatever that we need done, nope, CJ Allen handles it. So it's like defensive coordinator on the field. And I really think that's kind of what they need. And if you're going to take what is considered like a low value position in the first round, the year to do it is the year that you have 2 first-round picks. So, you've already addressed the high value position with the cornerback spot. And now you go and you grab yourself a linebacker to run that defense and help shore up the run defense.
Yeah, even like DeMarvin Overshown, if he comes back to 100% of who he was pre-injury, run defense was not necessarily his biggest strength. It wasn't a liability, but he was more of the coverage side, flying around the field, things like long, crazy athlete. I think CJ Allen's kind of the perfect complement next to him too. So I like that a ton. The only thing I might say is like, could they trade back from 20 because they don't have a 2nd round pick? So I don't know who's coming up. That's always the tough part about when you say that. Maybe it's San Francisco after Lomo's off the board, right? Maybe they're like, oh shit, if they don't bring back Trent Williams, we got to go get that guy.
The Patriots for Denzel Boston.
Right.
The Patriots for Denzel Boston.
For Denzel Boston, New England. We've kind of talked about that. That could totally make sense. So let's take the New England route where you move back 11 spots. Then you get CJ Allen. You have a 2nd round or an extra 3rd round pick. And then you go get an edge rusher like Kieran Crawford. Let's just say it's a 3rd round pick. You go get Kieran Crawford, or maybe Malachi Lawrence is there, Deny Dennis Sutton, Anthony Lucas from USC. So I wonder if that could be a way of them being able to get two birds, one stone, basically. So, but I like the fit, no, nonetheless. And here we go.
All right.
Like I said earlier, this is when I get all the Steelers fans. All the Steelers fans hate me. Every Steelers
Hey,
fan tell me.
listen, let me help. Let me help dissuade that. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
We agreed that TJ was going to take the odds because if I got the odds, I was going to give the Steelers Drew Aller.
So Steelers fans, hang in with me here, which I will say. We have 3 third-round picks. If it's not Ty Simpson at 21, which I'm like 80% sure it's going to be Ty Simpson at 21. If it's not, Drew Aller is going to be one of those third-round picks. Like I can already hear Mike McCarthy, the guy that as a part of their press conference helped develop Joe Montana in Kansas City, right? Like the QB whisperer that is Mike McCarthy. He's gonna definitely be in play if Allard's available in the third round, and we haven't already gone quarterback. So I'm with you through and through. But I am gonna go Ty Simpson here at 21. Again, I know it's not fun. No Steelers fans wants this. Everyone wants to tell me I'm not a real Steelers fan, but I think Ty Simpson can be a solid starter at the next level. He may not be top 8 once we get all said and done, but could he be in this Jared Goff kind of mid-tier quarterback? I think he could, especially with a better situation around him. I don't think the Bama offense really did him any favors. One of their weaker offensive lines, as inept a run game I've ever seen from Alabama. And then Ryan Williams, kind of in theory, Jeremy Bernard was their best receiver, and he's more of a complimentary 2 than like true alpha 1. So I think in a better situation, Ty Simpson can be a solid signal caller for your team. And here at 21, that's kind of the place where you draft these guys. If he was elite, he goes off the board at 2. Right. If it's Dante Moore, he's not here at 21. So you kind of get what you get. You don't throw a fit. And I will say I feel better about Ty at 21 than I did about Pickett at 20. Pickett was my QB4 that year, so I just wasn't really a big Kenny guy. So I feel okay about Ty here. And again, I've said this before. Let me just double check the measurables on Dak, but I'm pretty sure that Mike McCarthy might look at Ty Simpson and be like, he can kind of squint and almost see it. Yeah. 6'2", 238. That's the one big difference is Dak is much thicker than Ty Simpson. But Ty Simpson came in at 215. So that's kind of the new age where what Dak was 238 in 2016, which is crazy to say that he's been in the league that long. But 238 then in a lot of ways is kind of that 215 to 220 number now. So I think Mike McCarthy is going to kind of squint and be like, that's Dak Prescott. And the pick's going to be Ty Simpson there at 21.
Okay. Yeah. That's
80% sure. And if it's not Ty Simpson at 21, the other 20% goes to Drew Aller in the third round. I think you're right on the money there. That will be something they do in the third round if it's not Ty at 21.
Yeah. I mean, the big difference between Dak coming out and Ty Simpson coming out too, though, is 30 games of experience.
100%.
Dak Prescott came out with 49
even
games.
Even in this route that we're talking about fourth round pick Dak Prescott, 21st overall pick. So like even that, like a disparaging difference in regards to like pick value itself.
Yeah. I mean, I just know there's a lot of, fall off, I guess, for quarterbacks that have less than, I think it's 19 starts in college, 18 starts, 19 starts, something like that. Ty Simpson's on either side, the wrong side of either of those numbers.
And you and I have talked about it. The one guy you could point to with like 15 college starts that really you could say worked out, was worth the number 1 overall pick, is Cam Newton. And like everything that you draft Cam Newton for at number 1, there is none of that in Ty Simpson. He is not 6'5". He is not a national championship winning quarterback who's an absolute alien of an athlete. So like even that's like situationally maybe a little bit, but like body types and play style couldn't be any further different.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. For the Chargers, this is a real easy pick. It's Vega Ioane. Ioane. Out of Penn State, best left guard in the draft. Yesterday, we had in the draft professors chat that I'm in, we had a question where it was like, who's the player that you feel the best about, that you feel like he's going to come in and definitely be a productive player? And my answer was Ioane. And it was an easy answer for me. I look, number 1, interior offensive linemen tend to hit at the best rate in the first round. It's something like 73% of the ones picked in the first round work out well. Ioane is an immense talent, great character guy, leader in the locker room, and going to solve some of the interior issues that the Chargers had on that line. It was highlighted with the health issues their tackles had, but the interior was not much better. And Zion Johnson is slated to hit free agency, and it sounds like He's going to make a couple bucks in free agency, something like 15 million ish. I don't know if they want to pay that to bring him back, but if they don't, Ioane would make a great replacement.
Yeah, no, I think Ioane is a great candidate for what you're kind of talking about. Him or Caleb Downs would be like the two guys that, like, what was it? It was Joe Alt 2 years ago, I think, would have been the guy that I'm like, there's no possibility that Joe Alt doesn't work out. Like, I know it's scary to say for the NFL draft, but like I was about 100% sure as you possibly could with Joe Alt. And then maybe like Mason Graham was that guy last year where it's like, even if he's not a superstar, you're telling me Mason Graham's out of the league within 6 years? Nah, I don't believe it. I'm not seeing that. So yeah, no, I think Vega or Caleb Downs would probably be the two guys this year. And it's also like two guys that the only reason they're not going higher is because one's a guard, one's a safety. So it's also kind of funny how that works against them. But yeah, Vega there at 20. They also just cut Mekhi Becton, saving $10 million in cap space. So I think that's a home run fit if he makes it there. But for the Eagles here at 23, man, look, they have Reed Blankenship and Marcus Epps hitting free agency. So I'm like Dylan Thieneman we've kind of kept him on the board for a little longer than we probably should have. So it's like, do you want to go that route or do you just go the corner route? And that's kind of what I'm struggling with here. Andrew Makuba still there. Still have Sidney Brown.
You feel like the offensive line is all set there?
Say what now?
You feel like the offensive line is all set there?
No, I don't. Not far from it. You do have Landon Dickerson coming back and, should be at least one more year of Lane Johnson. But yeah, like who are those successors? That's a great question. Max Iheanacho would be a lot of fun here. They did draft Cam Williams from Texas last year. I'm kind of interested to see where that goes. But ultimately, he went day 3. So
on Iheanacho, and I've been big on this on my channel. Look, I think he's 25. I don't think you can take him in the first round. I think he's going to be 30 at the end of that rookie contract. The age is a question for him. There's no verified age for him that I'm aware of as of the last time I searched it, which was like before I went to bed last night. But he's definitely 24 or 25.
Yeah, no, he's 25. I just looked it up. You're right.
Yeah. Is he 25?
He's 25.
Is that confirmed now?
Yep.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
and that's where it's tough because he's been playing football for 3 years. So like he didn't pick it up until he was 22.
He's a developmental prospect that's old. That's not a good combination. It's a very, very bad combination.
That said, doesn't have the normal tread on his tires that a normal 25-year-old in regards to like bruises, injuries, all that sort of stuff.
But the thing is like he was playing basketball and soccer before that. So it's not the same tread, but I promise you, like we had this conversation about big guys jumping, landing, running in basketball. Also a problem for the feet, for the lower body. It's a lot of stress. As a big guy, I can tell you just going downstairs, a lot of stress on the feet. All right. So it's like, you get big guys with that. It doesn't matter that he wasn't playing football to me because soccer and basketball just as bad.
Yeah. And I will say, I think Cameron Williams went later than he probably should have. I thought tools wise, he could have gone back to school and maybe even positioned himself as a first round pick. So maybe they already have that developmental backup right tackle. And then odds are Brett Tooth is not going to demand that big of a market. So they might have a backup guard. So I'm going to ignore guard for right now. And really this comes down to Thieneman or Avion Terrell.
Yeah, they also took the giant kid out of Rutgers last year. I forget what his name was off the top of my head, but he was massive.
Why isn't he on? I don't know why he's not on this. Miles Hinton. Was he? What school did he?
Not who I was thinking of.
Okay, interesting. But that being said, I think secondary is kind of the place you have to go here. Let me double check my board. I think Avion Terrell is the highest ranked guy I have available here, but it might be Thieneman. It's Avion Terrell by a couple spots over Thieneman. So as much as I want to get Dylan off the board, they could also bring back Reed Blankenship. Wouldn't surprise me.
Holland Pierce is who I was thinking of. 6'8", 340.
Yeah, there it is. And dude, like I know Jeff Stoutland's not there anymore, but it's still the Philadelphia Eagles. Like give them those tools and traits. Like let's see where this goes.
Yeah, Avion Terrell is who you gave to Philly in your last mock too. That makes sense. I know,
but Dylan Thieneman was gone, so that's where I'm like struggling with this. I'll go Avion Terrell, inside out versatility, kind of the same shades of like why they drafted Cooper DeJean, really good tackler. Terrell's got even more kind of the quote unquote playmaking side with the forced fumbles 8 of the last 2 years. So I think in this situation, I'm content with playing Avion Terrell outside. He's just such a fluid athlete. I'm not really too worried about it, especially when you have Quinyon Mitchell, who has more mass. He's a bigger corner. So you can kind of play mismatch there. But whether Terrell's your slot, DeJean moves outside, or DeJean stays living in the nickel and Terrell plays outside, that's a huge upgrade over Adoree Jackson. So I'll go that direction and just say, hey, they probably bring back Reed Blankenship on a pretty low contract, considering he wasn't as awesome as he could have been last year.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. The interesting to note too, for the Philly fans that have been driving this particular draft board, Thieneman in that situation would have been the 12th BPA. So yeah, very interesting. Here with Cleveland, look, this is what I did for them in my mock draft last week, and I'm not going to change it. I think they need to go back to back on the offensive line. Titus Howard, the acquisition of Titus Howard doesn't change that either. He plays right tackle. Monroe Freeling comes in, plays left tackle, and Emmanuel Pregnon is going to come right next to him and play left guard. They back to back on the offensive line, keeping your quarterback upright. I don't care if it's Shedeur Sanders or a good quarterback.
Yeah,
you got to keep them upright, and you got to give Shedeur Sanders every chance this year, I guess, and you do that again by keeping him off the ground. I think this is the best thing that they can do, and whether it's Pregnon, whether it's maybe someone like Basantis, just double dipping on that offensive line in the first round is the most impactful thing you can do for your football team. I am a big believer in building from the trenches out and building from the center of the football out.
Yeah.
And so like, in a cross either way. So I think Pregnon is an impact player and an impact pick for this team day one.
Yeah, Pregnon's been my IOL too for quite some time now. Now, I'm a big fan of his game. The only thing I would have maybe done differently, but this basically, you can't really go wrong here if you're the Browns. You go Pregnon here, and at 38, you're probably looking at maybe Casey Concepcion gets there, but if not him, Chris Bell, maybe Omar Cooper Jr., Jeremy Bernard, Malachi Fields, Chris Brazel. You still have receiver options, all that said. Yeah. Or you go Denzel Boston here, and then you go take Jace Basantis at 38 if he's there. So, honestly, either way you spin it, the Browns are in a good spot for what their needs long-term are. So that then takes us to the Bears. Oh, this is a dude. It's another one where I'm contemplating Thieneman. They have Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard hitting free agency.
Well, yeah, and an interesting tidbit that I heard like at the beginning of the offseason was that they were going to prioritize bringing back Byard, which is interesting to me because he's like 6 years older than Brisker.
Yeah.
It was a good secondary. You would think Brisker would be the guy they really wanted back. And then like, hey, if you want to come here and do one more season, cool, Byard. But I had heard Byard was going to be the priority, which is interesting to me. I don't know if they just thought Brisker was going to have a big market, but Thieneman is who I went with for them last week in my mock draft. So it would make a lot of sense to me. But
and that is interesting to hear about Byard. So I'll take that into equation here. And I think the reason you probably let Brisker walk, I love Brisker coming out of Penn State. It's just the concussion history. I could just see, and the fact that he's 27, he'll naturally probably get a bigger offer than 35, 36-year-old Kevin Byard. So in that case, I have typically gone Caden McDonald or Akeem Mesidor here. Thieneman is very interesting. I'm going to go Pierre Woods just because I contemplated in my last mock where I had Caden go here and then Woods a little bit later. But I'll go Woods here and just say, hey, as an attacking three-tag playing off of Montez Sweat, this could be a spot where we got to maximize both what he is as a run defender, but also maybe tap into a higher ceiling as a pass rusher. And also maybe, sliding in the first round puts a little bit of a chip on the shoulder of Pierre Woods, and we get a better version of the player that was at Clemson last year because of that. So I'll go Pierre Woods here, but honestly, this is probably as ideal an outcome for the Chicago Bears you possibly could have had. The choices of Thieneman, Mesidor, Caden, and Pierre Woods, that's a spot you want to find yourself in with too many options, really. But I'll go with Pierre Woods because I still think he goes round one, and I think he's a good scheme fit there for Chicago.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me too. The one thing I would say is that I wonder if Chicago gets in on the Crosby thing, and this ends up being a Raiders pick.
Totally, good, absolutely. Hit him, or do they just sign Trey Hendrickson in free agency? Which if they do that, they could still go Peter Woods here, and holy shit, that D line looks so much better all of a sudden. But yeah, no, I do wonder, or Max Crosby and just try to get a 28-year-old versus signing 30-plus-year-old Hendrickson. That's definitely
I was scrolling somewhere online the other day, and I saw somewhere that Caleb was with Max Crosby at the airport. I don't know if that was a true picture or any of that, but
yeah. And then if this became a Raiders pick, I've still seen people holding on to the Peter Woods, Christian Wilkins comp. So like that would be interesting if this became the Raiders pick, and they're like, Remember that Christian Wilkins thing we tried? Let's try it again.
Right.
Just this time in the NFL draft.
All right. Well, we're here on the clock for the Bills. And look, they need wide receiver help. I don't care. It's so weird to me, the Joe Brady thing, where like Joe Brady was like, right after I got hired as the head coach, I called up Keon Coleman and I was like, the best thing that could have happened to you is me getting hired as the head coach, as if he wasn't his offensive coordinator for the past 2 years. So it's a super, super weird thing to me. Look, clearly they've got issues with Keon Coleman there. I don't know, I think there's a little bit of like kind of overlap with Concepcion and the guys they've got there now, like particularly Rashid Shaheed. And so I'm wondering, look, the Bills fans, which there are a lot of them on the Draft Professor site. I know that it's Jim himself is a Bills fan, and thus it started from Bills fans. So therefore there are a lot, and there seems to be like for Omar Cooper Jr. here.
Oh yeah.
And I even see Denzel Boston BPA 10 on their board. Well, Cooper Jr. would be BPA 3, which I think is crazy. But I'm just gonna follow along with what they like doing. And despite the fact Concepcion was a little higher. I like Omar Cooper Jr. there. I think he gives them a weapon. They need a weapon. I honestly think Boston's a better fit there for what they need, but I could see why they would say, well, we've got Keon Coleman, and then what if there's similar issues and whatever. And Omar Cooper Jr. definitely brings a different type, but with similar like down the field sort of threat, especially that yak has been the yak has been what's really gotten everybody's attention about Omar Cooper Jr. this offseason, and deservedly so. He does a good job with it.
100%. And that's the biggest pivot from the Ken Dorsey to the Joe Brady era of calling plays for Buffalo. It was less vertically oriented, more yards after the catch oriented with Joe Brady. So I think from that standpoint, like Omar Cooper Jr. fits that and then some. Yeah, to your point, they have a ton of these slot guys. Like Kincaid lives in the slot. Shakir lives in the slot. So it's like, what are you doing with all these guys on the inside? Cooper, at least, I think, could play Z, so he'd be on the outside, but ideally we're keeping him away from press coverage. I've kind of described him as like a little bit bigger, more filled out Emmanuel Sanders, just like high-level route runner. Honestly, he has better body control than Emmanuel did. So I like this fit a ton, and also 4.4 speed if he decided to do it. And I think that deep speed, his ball tracking, and again the body control, all that plays with Josh Allen's arm. So
and we know he steps up in big moments too.
Yeah, 100% steps up in big moments. And again, you can play this guy outside, and whether it's Keon Coleman or it's, hey, can we just bring back Mac Hollins to be a sacrificial X? Do they go sign Romeo? Could we just find a guy to stick on the line of scrimmage and let him deal with press coverage? Because everything else fits in really well. So I'm kind of with you here. As much as Boston does make sense, I'd probably go Boston here. It's hard to not love Omar Cooper Jr., though. Like, he's one of these guys that the more you watch, the more people talk about him, you're like, yeah, the guy's a stud, isn't he? Yeah, he's kind of awesome, isn't he? So you kind of talk.
Stay away from Mac Hollins. He's our weirdo now.
Okay? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's still got more years of him into it. Yeah. But still, like, I had to double check free agency. Go find literally any sacrificial X and just let them do that if you're going to go Omar Cooper here. And speaking of Keon Coleman, though, one team I think he would make a lot of sense for as a trade candidate is San Francisco. I think for a 5th round pick, I don't know. Like, if I'm the 49ers, I'm kicking tires on a former basketball player with ball skills. Let's see where this goes. And
basically kind of throw him into the Jawan Jennings role and not have to pay him.
Yeah, exactly. Jennings, that guy's going to be a Commander or a Steeler, I feel like. It's going to be one of those two outcomes. I could be wrong, though. But what do we want to do here with the 49ers? Thieneman, dude, like, they still need a free safety. Like, with Raheem Morris coming as the DC, could he view Thieneman as, like, his Jesse Bates type? He could. Or do we go Casey Concepcion? Because this team does need – or do we go Denzel Boston? That could be – in a lot of ways, that could be their Jawan Jennings replacement. And it feels like that's a team that over the last 2 years, they figured out what they had in Jawan Jennings probably 2 years too late. And now they're like almost making up for lost time. They're like, actually, that guy's a good football player. Throw him the football, throw it over him a lot. Oh, man, this is tough. Or do you go Caden Proctor? And like so much of me, like Caden Proctor is just eating your veggies.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go Caden Proctor here.
Well, that's where you went with your last mock, and I went with Concepcion there with my last mock.
Just because I think Boston, Concepcion both that offense perfect. They're both awesome fits. I'm going to go Caden Proctor because pretty much after Proctor, you hit a pretty steep drop off. You still have Blake Miller, but right tackle exclusive. So I think we'll go Proctor here to get above that drop off. And then basically your second round options look like Zachariah Branch, Skylar Bell, maybe Chris Brazel, maybe Antonio Williams, Dejon Stribling, who's very much to me, I've been kind of saying like that's if you want to replace Jawan Jennings, like Dejon Stribling is definitely that dude. Or Brennan Thompson, that could be another guy, but they're like, hey, dude, 4.26 speed in this offense. Let's go. So I'll go Proctor here and say that they have more options at wide out in the second and third round.
Okay. That makes sense. We got the Texans on the clock here. And look, I'm afraid to take an offensive lineman for the Texans because I don't want them to trade him away for nothing immediately. And that seems to be the only thing they like to do with offensive linemen in Houston.
Yep.
I don't know what the hell's going on there. I can't figure it out for the life of me. What I do, I mean, Max Iheanacho being the number one BPA on the board here, I can't do that to them. Again, 25. He's going to be 30 at the end of his rookie deal. Developmental guy. He's not a first-round pick to me. Keldrick Fall.
Could I float a trade idea by you?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about Arizona coming up from 34 to go get Ty Simpson? It's not sexy. I know it's not great to move back up.
Ty Simpson's off the board.
Oh, you're right. Oh, I'm thinking of my mock. You're right. Yeah. What do you think about that as an idea, though? Do you think somebody would move back in the first round for Ty? Like, if Ty gets to this point, do you think there's someone who trades up, or do you think people just let him fall to the first round?
I don't see why. I mean, that fifth-year option is valuable. Like that people tend to forget about that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
And specifically here, if we had it available, it's only 100-point difference between pick 34 and pick 28. And Houston has 2 seconds, a third, but that could be an easy way to net another third-round pick, maybe just another fourth. Just an interesting idea. I've been seeing that a lot in a lot of these mock drafts lately. So I forgot I already took Ty Simpson off the board. That's how bad of a Steelers fan I am. So
that's the one thing I was going to say is that Houston is one of those teams that's kind of like laden with picks, right?
Yeah.
So if I was going to see anybody move out, maybe I don't know what Denver's pick situation is.
And look, I'll be honest. I don't think this is too early for Basantis either. Like I think late first round's not a bad shout for Basantis. Yeah. Or do you just go defensive interior and give them one of Caden McDonald, Lee Hunter, or Christian Miller? Because any of those three guys would be an absolute badass on that D-line.
Yeah, well, and then look, you've been pitching him every pick since about 16, and I think I might have done this recently. I don't remember if I did this in my mock or not, honestly, but I'll tell you what I like Denham in there, and I'll tell you why is look, they've already got two good safeties. They've got the kid from USC, whose name again? Yes. Who's a ball hawk, great kid, good player. Deneman's going to give them a leader on that level of the defense. He's going to give them a defensive captain, and he's going to turn what is a great thing into a superpower for that team. And I'm talking. This is no. I was just going to say this is where you go from being a top 5 defense in the league to being, arguably a top 5 defense in NFL history or in this generation or whatever. You turn a good thing, a great thing into a superpower for your team with Dylan Deneman here.
Yeah. And then their other safety, Jalen Petrie, he's primarily a slot. So once you move Petrie into the nickel, it's Jalen Reed, who was a 6th-round pick a year ago. And I definitely think Dylan Thieneman is a better player than, and I didn't hate Jalen Reed coming out of Penn State, but like him or Thieneman, give me Dylan Thieneman all day, every day. So, no.
Yeah, I mean, they can attack the offensive line in the 2nd and 3rd round with all those picks they have.
Yeah.
Kind of fill out the interior, the right tackle position, probably Iheanacho at 38 or whatever would make a little bit more sense than at 28 here for me. But,
and if you can get Basantis at 38, boom, plug and play guy. You just moved on from Juice Scruggs, Leipzig. And then the question mark would be like, is Blake Fisher good? Are you going to start Blake Fisher next year? Because that's a choice. Hasn't been great so far.
Yeah.
Said by a Notre Dame fan, so like that's no easy task. So Los Angeles Rams, this is what I was really hoping to have happen. I'm going to go Casey Concepcion. I know Boston is still here, but I'm going to go Casey. I'm stealing this from Dane Brugler's mock. I saw this in his mock this morning, and my jaw immediately hit the floor. That's what I did right before we got on. I was like, oh my God, could you imagine like a better version of Tutu Atwell? Like a Tutu Atwell who actually had like somewhat comparable NFL size. And I know Casey still has some drop issues, but like I feel a little bit better about those hands than I do with Tutu. So I'm going to go with that. Plus, you do have Devontae Adams, who is getting up there in age. So for a year,
he's 32,
Yeah, exactly. For 1 year, you get to try out Puka, Da, and KC. I mean, good lord, weapons galore for
Well,
one
and
last run with Stafford. Let's go
yeah,
all in. And then beyond probably next year, you probably see Stafford retire. You probably see Devontae decide to move on. And in that case, you're talking about passing the torch to an offense to some quarterback who has, Puka Nacua and Casey Concepcion, an insane 1-2 punch.
yeah.
One guy with like all the raw materials, to like just be an awesome receiver. And he's a top 5 guy in the league just because he brings it all together. And then like this insane yards after the catch, explosive route runner, great deep threat when he holds on to the passes deep down the field. So I'm going to go Casey Concepcion. I saw that from Dane's mock, and I just was in love with that fit.
That's an interesting because it's an interesting dichotomy between the two players. Because for me, I always refer to Puka Nakua and Cam Scadaboo as the captains of the all crash test dummy team. Okay,
Yeah,
these guys will literally
they're,
run through
they're
brick
psychos.
walls and not give a shit. Okay,
Yeah,
they're hair on fire, but like hair on fire times 10. Meanwhile, Casey Concepcion, I don't think anybody in this draft wants to get hit less than Casey Concepcion. Okay, he sees him coming at you coming at him with tackle in your eyes. He is thinking dive out of bounds as fast as humanly possible. So it's it's an interesting mix there.
no, I understand that. And frankly, to your point about Puka and Cam Scadaboo, not only are they like the first team, like I'm going to run through this wall, they are a first team. That wall's actually scared of those two players coming at them. They're the only two players in the league where that wall is actually in fear. So, but yeah, no, it is an interesting 1-2 punch. But if you're going to go all in, if you're the Rams, I think it's worth the swing of the bat.
100%, 100%. Yeah. All right. Listen, I'm actually stealing this. I'm going to shout out a buddy of mine, Jeremy Green from the Sportsocracy. I'm stealing this pick from him. Eli Stowers has jumped into the hearts of many draft analysts, and he has jumped into the first round in some mocks, and this is going to be one of those. Look, he's 6'4.5". He jumps 47.5 feet. We all saw it. He's still waiting to land. It's amazing. He needs air clearance. It's wild. Okay, it gives Sean Payton a guy that he can play around with and do creative shit with, and I think he's going to be excited about that. Honestly, these guys. Look, there are some players on the board that they could have used and such, but I just think, man, Sean Payton's a creative offensive mind. You got to get juiced up over physical skills like that.
100%. And I mean, Sean Payton last year exemplified that exact thing. If you're my guy, I'm willing to take you around early. RJ Harvey was kind of seen as a collective. That's a 3rd round pick. Goes 57 overall. Pat Bryant, that's probably a 4th round wide receiver. Goes 86 overall in the 3rd. So like Sean Payton, if you're his guy, he doesn't give a shit. Like he's going to go take his guy. So like, frankly, I'm with you. I don't think Stowers out of the realm of possibility. And also in this class, most years you get to like pick 50 and people's boards go, they become a tree. They kind of go off in very different branches and very different directions. This year's class, it feels like it starts at 20. You get to pick 20, and it's like boards just they become these, the life tree.
Well, that's what I've said a lot. Like the class this year from about 25 to like 45, 50 is super interchangeable. It's like it almost doesn't matter, from like a Madden rating standpoint. It's like they're all rated 83.
Yeah, 100. Exactly. And that's where like there's some years being like a mock drafter and doing this stuff and thinking it through, because every time I do a video, I've done it beforehand because I want to be set in stone and I want to think I've made every team happy. So this is one of these. Sometimes there's a challenge to that, and then this is one of those years where like 25 to honestly through the 2nd round, it feels like player value almost kind of goes out the window because they're all, like you said, they're all in that same bucket, and you get to really just kind of draft like this team needs a guard. So I'm going to go take a guard here. This team needs a receiver, so I'm going to draft a receiver here. And it kind of works out well. So this is actually one of the easier years. Once you get to round 2 and round 3 of your mock draft, it feels like it gets a little simpler because you kind of get to just cheat and go off of position fit. Like what do they need? And the player is probably good enough to be warranted in that spot. So I echo your thoughts there through and through. And I'm going to need your thoughts here on this one. It feels a little crazy for Falk to get out of the 1st round, but I know we've talked about it. He's not really a Patriots type of guy.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking at, the really easy one here would be Denzel Boston. Is there anybody else you consider? Like, does Akeem Mesidor at all like move the needle, or is it just like Boston through and through?
I've got Akeem Mesidor in terms of a 1st round pick. Same thing, right? I am against anyone who's going to be 30 at the end of their rookie contract.
I'm with you.
So, especially at edge where you really start falling off at 31, 32 years old, you're going to get like a contract in change out of him, and that's it. And then for a 1st round pick.
And with that, the way he wins too is like weird. He always wins on inside counters. So it's like you're you're an older prospect, but it's not even like you're a man amongst boys like Tyree Wilson, where you're just like pushing dudes around. Holy cow, this guy is just like, or Tyler Hansbrough for a college basketball example, where this guy's like a man amongst boys. So you don't even have that with Mesidor. So it's like one thing where it's like that doesn't. He's older, but that's not how he's winning. But at the same time, an older prospect who only wins with inside counters is like, I don't know what to do with you. You're like too much of an outlier. So I'm kind of with you. I'm more than that, like, once you get to pick 40, okay, let's see what Mesidor is all about versus like first round. Yeah. So Denzel Boston here. I think Boston to New England. That's
yeah. I think Boston's the easy pick here. You know, it's a shame because Falk is talented and he's a good kid and he's the youngest player in the draft at 20. So he's got so much development ahead of him. It's hard to tell exactly what he'll become, exactly what he is even, but what he is right now is 275 to 285 defensive end, and we just don't use that sort of guy on our team here. So it's like it's tricky. As much as I love him and I love his attitude, I love like how he came to the press conference at the combine, which is like, listen, I don't care where I go, what pick I go, I just want to go to the right system where I'm going to excel. And that's the attitude that I want, but I just don't think this is the right system.
Well, hold on. Well, I'm not to make the pick for you, but hold on. I'm going to try to pull this up real quick. You could do it with this next pick. I've been going primarily corner. That's the wrong DeMarcus Robinson. What am I looking for? Hold on. Typically I go corner here for Seattle, but could you be a year early to like when
DeMarcus
Lawrence contract comes up and just draft Kedrick Falk here as like a
Tank Lawrence? That would make sense. Listen, good teams are a year early. Okay.
I'm pulling up their measurables. So Falk was 6'6", 276. Because dude, I'm almost thinking like DeMarcus Lawrence might be pretty much that exact same height and weight. 6'3", 251 at the combine. He's definitely bigger than that now. But yeah, 6'3", 251. So he's a little bigger than that. Arm length 33 and a quarter. Arm length for Falk's 34 and 3/4. So, I mean, you could kind of squint and be like,
Well, I mean, look, that's a team that has Byron Young playing nose tackle. So they're not like bound by like you have to have a certain body type to play this position either, I don't think.
And I mean, Tank Lawrence was awesome last year. So like, this is not me trying to like rush him out of the door, but he turns 34 in April. And after the 26 season, you can cut him and save $10 million against the cap. So if you're not going corner, I feel like you go Falk here and that's your like heir apparent to Tank Lawrence. And again, like Lawrence played a huge role in that D line. Like every time you watch Seattle and you're like, God, nobody can run on this team. Tank Lawrence is right there in the middle of all that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only other thing I would think is maybe, trade possibility.
Oh yeah, or you trade.
Would anybody?
Would you just go Basantis, right? Like, hey, every time we draft a guard in the first round, we win a Super Bowl. So Chase Basantis, come on down. let's go play the see if we can regenerate what we did a year ago.
I think that it'd be really, really fun there. And I've mentioned this a couple times, and maybe this is how you do it by trading back. But what's his name? Dunker and Zabel on either side. Just personality wise would be a lot of fun for like the marketing. It'd be like the only pair of guards that like
could have a podcast and be interesting. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. That like you can market your interior guards. Yeah. So
interesting.
I don't know, but yeah, it's I don't know. There's a lot of options there. I'm trying to pull up who's second, like the second round. But I'm not pulling up right for some reason. But I don't know who would have interest in that.
Who would come up here?
Pick, but I would say the
Giants. If Boston was still available, the Giants would be an interesting team. Or did we already do Tate? Was that who we did at 5? We did Fauna. Oh, now we know. So if like Boston was here, that would have been interesting. Let's see. Who moves? The player who's being moved up for is probably Falk or Cade McDonald to me.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking is like specifically for Falk.
Who comes up for
full draft order? Sorry, there we go.
Yeah, and Dallas doesn't have a second round pick, so unless they're mortgaging a future second, they can't really do it. New Orleans 42, Chiefs at 40, Raiders at 36. You're not really in the spot where you want to give up picks though if you're the Raiders.
Oh,
Ravens.
How about Tennessee? Does he fit Robert Saleh at
the team that just drafted Mykel Williams a year ago? Yeah, I mean, and they took Tyson at 4.
Yeah,
I think Tennessee could make some sense. And you're talking about a point difference of pretty much nothing.
Probably a 4th or 5th round pick, right?
Yeah, I think pick 140 should get it done. Let me just pull this up real quick. Tennessee. Pick 140 is worth 36 points. So 550.
They've got 141 and 143.
Okay, awesome. I'm just looking at draft check. So yeah, either one of those two picks is basically spot on points wise. So yeah, I think you make that trade, and then they go take Keldrick Falk.
That would
like, wow, if you told a Titans fan they were going to get Jordan Tyson and Keldrick Falk, if you told them that 6 months ago, they'd have been like, holy shit, let's go. Who'd we trade? How'd we get that extra first? No, I like that. That's honestly, I might have to keep that in line for future mock video.
Yeah, that actually does make some sense. I don't know why it's not letting
because like Falk's too good to get out of the first round. And frankly, if you're Seattle and you can move back 2 spots to take the same guy and get an extra swing of the bat, that's like totally a John Schneider move.
Yeah, this is the one tricky thing with this mock draft simulator, by the way, is trades. Not easy. Not easy to do. So I'm just going to grab Falk for the Seahawks, and we know that was actually for the Tennessee Titans because I couldn't trade there.
Look, if Falk's there for for Seattle, they could just draft a Tank Lawrence replacement a year early. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, it's true. I think I was looking at it and thinking, like if there's anyone that I want the 5th-year option for, it's the youngest player in the draft.
100%, right? 100%. Because otherwise, you're letting this guy walk at 24. Right when he's about to become a badass, so like, no. Let me see age 25 season. Yeah, it's kind of like shades of like Tremaine Edmonds when the Bills drafted him. He was 20 years old. He was the youngest player in that class coming out of Virginia Tech. And it was like, this was a position of need, but you basically got 4.5 years of all the bad stuff. And then like right in that last part of that 5th-year window, he became awesome. And like you had a choice. Do you pay this guy $20+ million, or do you let someone else do it and they let someone else do it? So yeah, it is kind of a trade. You're basically
you did all the development and they get all the benefit.
You do all the hard work. I take you through college, and then someone else gets to make you a millionaire. Like, what the hell's the deal with that?
Well, it's a little bit like the football version of when people say like, I don't date, I like help people find their forever person.
Yeah, sure.
Like have you ever heard somebody say that? Like everybody that leaves me then goes on to get married, like that sort of situation.
Yeah, exactly. I'm setting you up for your next life partner. Yeah, 100%.
Yes, that. All right, so that's it. That's through. Now, just going back through your head, what sticks out to you the most here? Because I think maybe, other than Ty Simpson going in the first, but the Ruben Bain fall to 11, that was an interesting one.
And dude, look, if they're going to go a 4-man front, that guy is an awesome fit for that. Spencer Fano at 17, like if you're trying to find a guy to replace Frank Ragnow, like count your blessings, Detroit. That is literally about as good as you possibly could have gotten it. And then, dude, the 2 receivers at 26 and 29, man, like. They went ahead of Boston. I have Boston ranked ahead of them, both those guys. But at the same time, for what they're looking for, Buffalo definitely needs an X. But let's just say we're playing for it a month, and they've signed some guy in free agency to play a sacrificial X. Like Cooper Jr., his big playability, his hands, his body control, like that's such an awesome compliment for Josh Allen. And then like KC just as like hey, we're already really awesome, but like we're just going to throw all of our chips in the middle of the table for the Rams.
Yeah,
at a better version of 2-2 out. Well, like those 2 fits would just be like hashtag fun to watch. So I would be on the floor if those 2 things happen.
Yeah, honestly, like the last 3 receivers, I think were perfect fits because Denzel Boston's exactly one perfect fit with Drake May.
Kyle Williams then becomes your Z. Pop Douglas as your slot or Booty, depending on what they would decide to do there. Like, oh my gosh, and dude, like specifically if y'all got Boston, like I would be so excited for Kyle Williams. Like I'd be drafting and stashing him in like redraft leagues because like I think that's the necessary step to unlock him at the next level.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Kyle Williams steps into kind of that Steph Diggs sort of role.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
When they move on from Steph Diggs later this week or whenever,
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, which I wonder where he like Tennessee. Does he just go to Tennessee for a 1-year deal, reunite with Dayball, and just get to hang out in Nashville and just chill for $8 million or something like that? I could see where that kind of makes some sense.
Yeah, or Seattle.
Just kind of fill in for Cooper Kupp, basically. Cooper Kupp getting up there in age, basically just
do what he did. Got a bunch of cap room. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that was a good draft, definitely. And we'll let you get out of here. By the way, the pick that they hated, the mock draft engine hated most for us was Eli Stowers.
Okay,
and that's fine.
But that's because they're not accounting for Sean Payton. They have to turn the Sean
Right.
Payton multiplier up. They're
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it all makes sense. Then it all makes
But
sense.
I got a D for that. You got a B for the Simpson pick.
Yeah, which
Um,
I think on their board he's typically around the 30s and stuff. So yeah, that it's a little bit of a reach, but it's like Mac Jones going 15. Taking your team for an example, he's probably an early second round talent, but quarterback half round bump. Next thing you know, he's 15. Next thing you know, he's going 21, or Kenny Pickett at 20. God forbid. Whew. Don't make me relive those nightmares.
yeah. Well. All right. Well, listen, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. And I
Okay.
want to thank you again for coming on here. Look, we went a little bit over the planned hour time, but it is what
Yeah.
it is. We both like talking draft. And
I'm a talker,
so,
man.
listen, we
Yeah.
got sucked into it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Now would be fun to
Um,
do one of these and kind of resemble what it looks like post free agency. I'd be curious to see how different these 32 picks could look post free agency.
yeah, let's talk on X offline and try to get
Sure.
back and connect after free agency just before the draft, maybe
Perfect.
early April.
Yeah, let's do it.
Or something like that, and when the dust is really settled,
Yeah.
and maybe get back together here in a month and do the same exact exercise again. That'd be a
Side by
great
side
time.
of the two mocks. This is how free agency changed the draft. Ready, set, go. Yeah, no, I'm here for it. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do that. 100%. We'll schedule it. We'll write it down in Sharpie.
Perfect.
About a month from today, folks. Tune in. In the meanwhile, make sure to get over to 32 Beat Writers. Get over to TJ's channel, which is TeeJ.
Yep.
Right? That's the
Yep.
just
And if you have trouble
TeeJ.
finding it, just throw in the number 11. That's technically like my YouTube @ that makes it easy to find me and whatnot. But you can find all my stuff at 32 Beat Writers. My personal YouTube is typically a collaborator on those videos. So either way you want to find me, you can find me there over 32's YouTube.
All right, great. Well, thanks, guys. Remember, like, subscribe, share this, tell your friends all about it. If you want to hear what's going to happen in the draft, here we just told you all 32 picks. We know, okay, we're experts. We know football and shit. So have a great day, guys. Thanks again, TJ. And folks, don't forget to tune in later tonight. I'll be dropping that Patriots 3-round Fanatic Challenge video. So thanks again. Have a good one, folks.